Hello, hello, hello. God bless you all. So glad that we have our time again this week. Praying as always that the Lord is doing what he said he's going to do, which I don't have to pray for that. He's going to do what he said he's going to do. I'm praying that you are in the place that you can receive everything he said he's going to do. Praying that all is well in your home, with your family. And God bless you all. Tonight we're talking about the one thing that is not affected by regulations or legislations and regulations. Let's start off with the definition of it though. You know, to legislate means to make or enact law, to cover, affect, or create by making or enacting laws. To regulate is to control or supervised by means of the rules and regulations. So what is it? The one thing that is not affected by legislation and regulations. Let's go and let's just find out really quickly what that is. Jeremiah 17 verse 9 says, "The heart is more deceitful than anything else." Oh my goodness. And incurable. Who can understand it? I, the Lord, examine the mind. I test the heart to give to each according to his way, according to what his actions deserve. He who makes a fortune unjustly is like a partridge that hatches eggs. It didn't lay. In the middle of his life, his riches will abandon him. So in the end, he will be a fool. Continue, okay, to the 13th. A glorious throne on high from the beginning is the place of sanctuary. Lord, the hope of Israel. All who abandon you will be put to shame. All who turn away from me will be written in the dirt, for they have abandoned the Lord, the fountain of living water. So we know we're talking about the heart. Jeremiah 9 says, what is the heart that is deceitful? And then King James it'll say, above all, the heart is deceitful. And more than anything else, it's incurable. Who can understand it? And the King James, who can know it? Matthew 12:33. What does the Lord say about it? He said, let's go to 33. Matthew 12:33. Either make the tree good and its fruit will be good, or make the tree bad and its fruit will be bad. For a tree is known by its fruit. 34, the focus. Brood of vipers, how can you speak good things when you are evil? For the mouth speaks from the overflow of the heart. 35, a good person produces good things from his storeroom of good, and an evil person produces evil things from his storeroom of evil. I tell you that on that day of judgment, people will have to account for every careless word they speak. For by your words you will be acquitted, and by your words you will be condemned. We know that by your words, listen, I don't know why I can't see any of you, but hello to everyone that has joined. I can't see any names, so I want you to know that I thank you for joining us. We know that the Lord was talking about there's many times where people will say, well, I didn't mean to say that. I don't know where that came from. No, it's in you. Somewhere your spirit took over. You decided to deposit that. And when the opportunity presented itself, you said what was in there. And regardless of what is going on in the country, in someone's life, whatever law that someone has put in place, whatever rules they have, even regarding the relationship that you have with them, your heart you might not say anything with your mouth, because even Proverbs said a fool seems wise even when he keeps his mouth shut. You got a lot of people that are downplaying what's really in their hearts. You think they're with you, but their hearts are far from you. They're right there, but they really don't want to be there. They really don't value you in the manner that you feel they should or that you deserve. And when the opportunity arises, they'll tell you. Maya Angelou was the one that coined that when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. Oftentimes we don't do that. We make excuses. We find some reason why a person did what they did or said what they said, especially if it's in the negative, or we perceive it to be in the negative. What are we getting at? I'm asking the Lord myself. I said, Lord, what were you talking about? He said, why is it that whenever I establish my laws, it's very difficult for someone to obey them? He said, because laws don't regulate what's in your heart. The only thing that can change, and the only one that can change a heart, is the one that created the heart. He's the only one, and even he has to give you a brand new heart, a spiritual way of, a spiritual container, a spiritual receptor. Because everything that we put inside of us is not beneficial for us. It's not conducive to holiness. It's not conducive to goodliness. It's not conducive to relationships with one another and with him especially. We see so much pretense that's going on in the media, that's going on even with the laws. I made a post recently about I shared a post. It wasn't my post. I shared a post that was pertaining to the Michigan law, that is a setup using the Constitution and in a way that will benefit them, and in another way that is contradictory to the Constitution, but in the same manner, it's a setup for those who won't comply to what someone else's ideology is. I can tell you that my name is Samantha. And like I told you all before, I had a 7th grade teacher, Mr. Lothery. He knew my name was Samantha. But every time he would talk to me, he would say Sanama. I could have just, even though I would tell him all the time, Mr. Lothery, my name is Samantha. He said, I know it, but every time I talk to you, every time I see you, I keep saying Sanama. Now, you could become offended by that. I could pretend that it didn't bother me, which at one point it didn't, because I realized he wasn't trying to be ugly. Some people get so sensitive because someone mispronounced your name. If they're talking to you, then you know they're talking to you. You can get all out of sorts because they mispronounced your name. Sometimes people just can't pronounce it that way. They say, I'm sorry, I don't mean to offend you, but I just can't pronounce it. But you get to the point, you realize, you're looking inside their heart, you seeing the way they are, their character, the way they are presenting themselves to you. They are not trying to be derogatory. And every time they talk to you, they say the same thing over and over again. I understand that many have gotten to the place, and it is wonderful to be able to know the correct name of the Lord. But he has assured me that many who do not call him by his Hebrew name, he knows who they're talking about. Some just call him Father. Some just say God. Some just say Lord. And he knows that he is the Lord of Lords, and he is the King of Kings. He's the God of all small g gods. And we get so caught up until that even becomes a religion. And he doesn't want religion. He wants relationship. Anytime you have a relationship with the Lord, anything that needs to be changed in you, he does it because you allow him to. You see, because your heart is not regulated by his rules. Your heart is not governed by the legislation, his laws, his precepts, his concepts. He gave us a free will, but it takes you allowing him, taking your will and say, Lord, overrule me. Have your way, have your say in my life. Let my heart be filled with your presence, that everything that comes out of my mouth will give you praise, it give you worship, it will give you honor, it will bring glory to your name. We get so caught up on politics until now church folks, the leaderships have become witches and warlocks, convincing people to hate people so that because they have money, it's like they gambling, they betting on something and someone, and they don't want you to know it. You got some leaders that shouldn't even be in the pulpit, should not be there at all, was not called. They have family members there, like generations of my father was, his father was, his father, and his father's father was. And God did not call them and did not allow them. How do you know you have a calling? Because the Lord will allow. He's all-encompassing. He lets you know in your spirit. And when he called you to be saved, you were called. Whether you were called and to be behind a pulpit or not, you were called. He appointed you to go talk about him. Regardless of who it is. And now we caught up on so much politics until you brought politics into the church. Now it doesn't mean that someone who is a believer in Christ and God could not go into politics. As a matter of truth, they should. They should be able to pray and ask the Lord to bring laws into this nation that will bring honor to him. We understand that the government system is for the people, by the people. It's supposed to be. Now you got some that's trying to take that away too. All about money. That's what it comes down to. Influence brings money in a capitalism society. We understand that. So what do we do? What do we do about a heart that cannot be regulated, cannot be legislated? We saying things with our mouth and our heart is far from it. And then when we least suspect it, we say the very things that we didn't want anybody else to know. Your fruits, according to the Lord, what comes out of you is going to tell about you. You can't just say good and evil at the same time, because there's no such thing. You either all the way good or you all the way evil. See, that's that politics coming in therein. You're going to say good one moment and then you saying negative behind somebody's back, or while you looking at them, you saying negative in your heart about them. You say you saved. And then you want to win someone else over who has been hurt. Maybe they have never known the Lord. And they know that there's something that they need greater than what they have. They need somebody in their life far beyond the capacity to get angry at any and everything and not take them to a higher place in the spirit. The higher place in the spirit is in the presence of God. We're not talking about spirituality. Spirituality can be demonic. It can be satanic. It can be esoteric. You know, witches and warlocks are using God's herbs and the elements, the stars, and all of these things to conjure up demons. No, we're not talking about that. We don't want to have all of the bitterness and the nastiness and perverseness to come out of us, because we don't want it to be a part of us anymore. We want it out of us. And there's only one that can do that. When we allow the Lord to take over our heart, our mind, our soul, our spirit, our body, He said there's no laws that we are bound to, because we already are in the presence of God. We are allowing Him to do what He needs to do. All laws are created for two reasons. For things that are happening that we no longer want to happen, or things that we want to happen that is not happening. That is what laws are for. So when Moses was writing down the laws, he was writing down laws of things that was happening amongst the people and things that needed to stop. Things that needed to be and things that needed not to be. Because if the Lord was all in those laws, He would not have said when they came to Him testing Him, saying about divorce, can you divorce your wife for anything? Immediately, Christ said, in the beginning, that wasn't so. It was not supposed to be any divorce. Because in the beginning, it was male and female. And the husband was too. And they became one flesh. They forsook mother and father and clung together. He was saying that because of the hardening of your hearts, Moses permitted divorce. So your heart, what's in you, regardless of what laws are in place, you're still going to be out of order. You're going to be unruly. You're going to want what you want and do what you want to do. Except that heart becomes new. We are asking for laws to be in place. Right now, this is the most fantastic time to exist, to be alive. This moment in time, to see the Lord stand upright. Many are trying to predict the Antichrist. If Christ had already told you there are many Antichrists already, doesn't mean they don't believe that Christ exists. That means that they're in the place of Christ. Instead of Him, they want what they want. They rule and reign, and they feel they're gods, but they don't want to do what He requires. Many of them, they're not the Antichrist, but they are Antichrist. That's why you hear so many people talking about, I'm a god, I'm a goddess. And really believing they ruling and reigning. And some are saying that because they're giving themselves some esteem, not trying to really literally rule and reign or have people worship them. They're saying that because I was created by God, then I am His child. That's what some are saying. But we have people are being used by the enemy in such a way that it is, without the Lord, it's very hard to discern. Well, you can't discern except you have the Lord to show you. Your experience will may have your antennas saying, like we say, our antennas. You feel something, you're not quite sure. Experience will cause you to be familiarized with some things, but you will not know the spirit, the true spirit realm, in the way that you should, except a true and living God reveal to you what is really going on. Because if we don't know, we'll think that evil is actually good. And many people have presented evil as being good. I started out talking about how there are some leaders that are just as political and just as evil. They're just as money hungry, money seeking as they can be. And they have created a new gospel, which is not gospel. If it doesn't have anything to do with Christ, it's not the gospel. That every time they get before you, it's almost like an auctioneer. They auction off miracles and blessings. If you don't have a Bentley, a Rolls Royce, a Lamborghini, a Maserati, or all of these things, then you are really not blessed, is what they're trying to tell you. If you don't live in a mansion, you are not blessed. If you're not able to just wine and dine and lay and play, then you really not blessed. And if you buy into that, you have become deceived. You think that's right. You think that's good. If you don't ask the Lord to tell you the truth, if you don't get in his presence and he doesn't direct you to the case files in the Bible, you're going to think that junk is true. Because these people are presenting a lie in such a way, because you see them with the stuff. You see them with the cars and all of this stuff. And they start promoting it more and more. Then they start tattooing themselves and telling you about it, and then they telling you about a God they really not serving. Because if you go in some of them houses, you see this idol and that idol and that idol of different religions. And with God, with Christ, there can only be one. He told you he's the only one. You have no other gods beside him at all. That's what he meant. He's not going to change that. He gave us the ability to accept him, to love him, to honor him. And we have the choice to accept him or not. Now, that has to be an awesome God that'll allow us to make the choice to accept the very one that created us. That tells you right there, he's not afraid of anything or anybody. He knows who he is. He knows it's really his way, but he's going to give you the opportunity to understand that. He's trying to get us to the place where he can come in and dwell inside of us. Because the time is coming, eventually, where the enemy, who is Satan, will be able to do what he wants to do. All that you're seeing with people changing who he made them just by pronouns, and get upset because somebody won't say their pronoun. No, we started out talking about how Michigan was playing with that, trying to play on words. That if someone, and they know it's generally going to be someone of the Christian faith that's not going to take down on what God says. So it has to be a target. Because generally, most people are going to try to appease folks. Even in their spirit, they saying one thing to their face, and even while they're in their heart saying, that child crazy. They know who they really are. What's wrong with them? But a Christian will tell you that God loves you so much that he wants you to know who he made you. What he has in store for you is far better than anything that's in this world. All of this stuff is going to pass away. And now you have conflicts even in that sector of people that's, like we said, has been exploiting other people. They have nothing to do with that agenda. They didn't ask for that agenda. That agenda, they know, they have sense enough to know that has nothing to do with them. So what is it all about? Just like the agenda in the church. You're telling everybody unless they rich, wealthy, And you got to understand that the Lord already said the love of money is a root of all evil. So if he told you that, why are you seeking it? Why are those in the pulpit telling you that? You got those calling themselves prophetesses trying to tell you to put an offering that God didn't tell her to ask you for on a credit card. And the Lord told us not to be indebted to anyone. Don't owe no man nothing but to love them. So when we're in debt, we have to pray, Lord, give us the funds to get us out of this debt, because we're not supposed to be indebted. That makes you a slave. And why then are people buying that lie? God said, give you an offering of $1,500, $15,000, and on and up, because they have some bills they want to pay and they using you. What God are they talking about? They're not talking about the true and the living God. And God, still being God, didn't strike them down, didn't inhale and they go back to the dust, still trying to give them an opportunity to get it right. And some he's done with anyway. They're not his. He has an appointed time to wipe them out. He said clearly, those who put their hand to the plow, you know, the gospel plow, you called into the ministry and then you turn back, you're not worthy of the kingdom. And you got these liars calling themselves by titles and functions that God never did call them to. Lying to you every time it comes out of their mouth, that's telling you what's in their heart. If they asking you for money, they are one that loves it. If they're trying to tell you all the time about sexual relationship, that's in their heart. They're perverted. If they're not telling you the gospel of Christ, that is not in them. If they're not telling you that sin is sin, if everything that's against what God has said and you doing it is a sin, then they are not telling you what God says. They're not called by him. And then we get upset. And we got the right, even in the Constitution, we're supposed to have the right to say what we want to say. They put it in the First Amendment. It means it wasn't always there, but they put it there. That meaning that, no, you got to have the right, because God gave you some rights that man can't take from you. He already made us human. It didn't take a man or a group of men to finally put in the 14th Amendment that everybody was a man or a woman. God did that already. So when you know who you are, you know who God is. So when man making laws that don't reflect what he said, it's like, really? And no. You're not sending me to hell with your mess. Now, in America, we always say that, based upon Christian values. Even Christ allowed people to do what they wanted to do. He wasn't forcing himself on anybody. They was already having their orgies to different gods. They were already worshiping idols. They were already demonically possessed. That's why he cast out demons. So when he came into their presence, demons, Satan himself knew who he was. He didn't have to show off. He knew who he was. He wasn't trying to prove a point. If you wanted him, you came to him. If you didn't, you didn't. But there was some he had gone to himself. Because you got to remember, it's not God's will. It's not his desire that anybody goes to hell, that anybody perishes. No. It doesn't make him happy that a wicked person even dies. He didn't create you for that. He created to be able to dwell inside of us. That he can reach others through us. We get so caught up on what mankind is telling us with the perverseness of their heart, that when someone tells you the truth, now it's a hate speech. The devil is a whole lie. And you got government making you feel, playing on your emotions. You think they want what you want. They really don't. Look at the Vice President, Kamala Harris. Yeah, I call out names. I do when the Lord says so. Otherwise, if he don't call your name, that means he's not still trying to get to you. You political folks understand this. But Kamala Harris played some folks for a fool. Told y'all she's a black woman. She was in the busing situation and she was poor. She understood all that. She listened to Tupac and all of this stuff, and and Biggie, they didn't even make music when she was talking about when she was supposed to be hearing it. She even told Brad about y'all that she did a puff pass, repass. You know, with those who don't know that she smoked on marijuana a little bit and all this little stuff, talking about when she was in college and trying to make you seem like you so stupid. That's all you black folks want to do is get high, be promiscuous, listen to rap songs. You didn't understand what she was playing on, trying to win you. And then she went on and saying all of this mess, and the father eventually said that was not even true about her life. She went on to tell y'all how this man was so racist. That part was true. She didn't tell you he was a pedophile. That part is true too. Y'all don't believe? Go back and look at the tapes. Go look at the videos where the people were coming up to him. One little girl sitting up there with her parents, and he's up there trying to touch her under the arm so much up close to her little young breast until she's uncomfortable, sniffing on her hair, getting close to her. Totally out of order. That's not your grandchild. You wouldn't even do it to your grandchild. Well, he did, but anyway. You don't do it to somebody else's child. Until the one point where he's at the young girl, the daddy wanted to reach and snatch his child from him, but the doggone Secret Service tried to keep him back when the man should have clocked the Secret Service and the president for messing with his kid. Yeah, say I'm being ugly if you want to. He has no business. You representing a nation. You telling us we perverted like that. You telling us that's all we are. We have no boundaries. What's in his heart is coming out. Lies coming out because it's in there. All of them, if you want to tell a lie, it's in there. We're so caught up on what the enemy is presenting to us until we buy anything and everything. Kamala Harris telling you that it's a right. You have a right to your body, ladies. You got the health care to get rid of your child if you want to. Don't call it a child. All this stuff. And that's fine if you've done it. God will forgive you. This is not what I'm talking about. You got to understand, when you know the Lord, I just told you, he don't want anybody to perish without him. He will forgive you of every sin except blaspheming him, talking about his spirit is not holy. He'll forgive you of everything. So when you understand that, you wouldn't be so sensitive when somebody tell you that something is wrong. You will want to get to the one that can correct that mess and still love you and not throw it in your face. But we get so sensitive and then get so blindsided with junk until you don't even hear when somebody's snowing you. She told you all in your face that it's okay for you to get rid of your babies, going off to other nations that don't even believe in that junk. And then here you are, you telling them that it's a woman's right and that it is a health issue and all of this stuff, medical care. But then at the same time, she calling herself mama. Because she now married to a man who have grandchildren. Now, if I'm really with you, I'm going to be with you. That's not going to change anything on me. I can't be two sides of the fence. I'm either all the way don't want you with your kids or I all the way want you with your kids. But if you happen to have a situation, you tell them. If I happen to made a mistake and I felt like this, then God will forgive you. Go to him. But don't be pushing stuff on people because you did it. Or you got some money in there, and she does. Her funding for her presidential race was funded by Planned Parenthood. So y'all don't understand? Folks are using you. You pray for them. Because out of the abundance of the heart, you're going to speak. And some things going to come out your mouth you didn't even know was in there. If it's in you, it's going to come out. Your life experiences deposits things in you. What you hear, what you around, what you read. goes inside of you. The experiences that you've had physically goes inside of you. And it comes out of you sometimes when you least suspect it. We're so consumed about whatever they dish out. People getting so upset. And the Lord told me, I was sharing this with someone about the civil rights. And how we were grown up to believe that the black people were still practically enslaved. You have no rights to do anything, which is a bold-faced lie. Because even before the 60s when they were doing this, and even during that time, black people still had land. My great-grandfather was one of them. They had land, they had businesses. And they trying to teach the young folks that you didn't have it because they took it away and all this stuff. A bunch of lies in your head. Things that were not, they created. And then when you start looking, because he told me, this is what he said. I shared it with you all before. He said, tell me where any of these so-called leaders, civil rights leaders, spoke about me in their messages. He said, go and tell me. Prove me wrong. Exactly what he told me. Tell me. Now we know that Dr. Martin Luther King says some scriptures every now and then. He didn't preach a sermon. Not one sermon did you hear on tape. You heard political speeches that he was being given to even create more chaos, even though he was speaking, wanting everybody to come together. People were still using it. That's the reason why they were being, the dogs being put on people, hoses being, and it's televised. Just continue with the hate. You still got so-called black leaders and white leaders. You need to hush up with all that foolishness. But anyway, these civil rights leaders, when you already had your civil rights, tell me already in the Constitution it was there. Black people have had their rights since the 14th Amendment. And when you start talking to other people with all the rhetoric that people are trying to tell you, be convinced that you didn't even have any opportunity to do anything. Yes, there were still some things that took place because it was created. It wasn't even that way all the time either, where black people had to go on this side of the building and white people on this side. Black people have this bathroom, white people have this side. White people drink out of this fountain, black people drink out of that fountain. Wasn't always that way because you had black and white neighbors that would drink out of the same well. And tell the whole truth. But if it's in your heart, you've been told this stuff and you accepted it, bitterness will come out of your heart and you will hate people and you still say you godly. That is impossible. Hate can't be a part of you if you are godly. And we're talking about the real God. Can't be a part of you. You won't be holding on to stuff that folks did, because if you did, then your stuff got to be held on to you by God. He said if you don't forgive other people their trespasses, he can't forgive you of yours. And sometimes we may think a thought that was not holy. We didn't even know it. That was something that was given to us. And it's so far from God. And if we don't forgive people for hurting our feelings, or we had a misunderstanding, or they didn't do what you wanted them to do, or they didn't even know what you wanted to do, and all of this stuff, and you don't let that go, everything that you have not done right will not be forgiven by God of you. Your heart got to change. No matter what the Lord has said from Genesis to Revelation, that does not change a person's heart at all until they accept him. And then he regulates. He's the only one that can regulate a heart. He's the only one that can steer a king's heart any way he want to do it. That's what we should be asking the Lord to do. Lord, change some things, because we've been lied to. We've been snowblowed. These folks telling us all kind of lies, and it sounded so true. And you find out that nothing what they said was true. They're using you, people, and you got to forgive them. Yes, Because if the truth of the matter is you realize that Martin Luther King was cheating on his wife, didn't really want her, he wanted somebody else at first. Folks didn't want to hear that. Forgive him. But forgive yourself for buying into the politics, because he never preached the gospel to you, not one time. And I know that hurt some folks' feelings because you bought into the lie. And that's what they want you to do, to still hate. Say you Christian and really the white folks this. And those N-words do this. And they wonder why the N-word came out of their mouth, because it was put in their mouth. And then when you have presidents to tell you they're going to have the N-words voting a certain way for the next 60 years. And the N-words that want to be that way, whether they light-skinned or dark-skinned, do that. And not even look into what's going on. You a slave to whatever controls you. If money controlling you, a slave to an object. If you have this concept in your mind that you're supposed to be separate, then you are slave to that. The only separation you're supposed to have is good from evil. You're not supposed to be hanging around with folks that want to do anything and everything. If it's your own child, if your child is doing something that's totally contradictory to the word of God, what you hanging out with them for? You love them. You tell the word. If they don't accept them, get this step and I love you, but don't you bring that mess to me. No, we sugarcoat things. That's not, baby. Because the political realm tell you that if you hurt somebody's feelings by them saying that they know who they are. Nope. If I had you, I know what God said. He said there's two sexes, male and female. Now you got all these other people telling you there's millions and how many of agendas that they want to think up in their head. That's your business. I don't have time to try to be your psychologist or your psychiatrist and try to figure out what you're thinking at that moment. When I look at you, you're a man or you're a woman. If you decide that your name is Billy and I know it was Betty, that's your business. But do not try to limit my right to tell you that you're still Betty. If that hurt your feelings, then you are pathetic. I can't make it no better. You can't be that doggone weak to know good and darn well if you're going to go there and say something that you know that nobody else is going to receive too well. You're going to have to be able to handle your stuff, darling. Christ did. He came against a religious society. He came to tell them, I am God. The one you trying to look up to, I am He. He already knew. Did he back down on anything? Nope. Even when they were accusing him, falsely accusing him of doing evil things, because evil was never a part of God. Can't be. Even when you read some scriptures that say that God sent an evil spirit on someone, how he gonna do it? Means he stepped out of the way and let the evil spirit go there, which was the devil. There's no evil in God. And all these twisted up leaders trying to give you a new theology. God knows good and evil, so that's what he does. It's a thin line between love and hate. It's a thin line between good and evil. Shut those jokers up. It is a whole vast what is it? A gulf between good and evil. What did the scripture say when the rich man was asking Lazarus with his old cocky self? See, what's in his heart still was there. He didn't care about Lazarus. Now that he's in hell, want the very one he talked about used like a dog to come and give him water, dip water on his finger, because he still thought he was all that. And Lazarus still wasn't nothing, even though he saw him in heaven. And he wanted Lazarus to come and give him water and then go tell his family to not come here. Like the man was still his slave. See, what's in you gonna come out? And then he said, no, we can't do it. There's a gulf between me and you. We can't do that. There's a whole vast gulf between good and evil. We can see your stuff, but you can't come over here and we can't go over there unless we decide to. No, your heart can't be regulated by all of this stuff. And all these people who telling you they're with you, not. They're giving you what you want to hear. They're using somebody in the arena that they can use. They probably want to do this stuff, and you hearing more and more about it. Some of the leaders that you didn't know was doing some unclean things now wanting it legalized. So when it comes out, it's okay. Nobody's going to say anything. Except those that are called by God. Oh no, we're not going to go try to hunt you down. But you're trying to make people think that's what we want to do. No, if the Lord sent us to go give you the word, that's what we're going to do. But we don't have time to lay and play with you. You either accept it or you don't. The word clearly says one will sow the seed, another will water it, another one will reap the harvest. So it means that I don't have time. I might be the one that's planting, the other one, somebody else got to come and water that one, somebody else will reap that harvest. And people stop trying to do it all at one time and trying to take folks from folks. God, these people belong to God. Come on, stop being so jealous. Doesn't make sense. Some of us are getting ready to have to transition anyway. We're in places that God don't want us. He might be ready to move us to another state. Send you back to where you came from. All kinds of stuff. Don't know where that come from, but hey, if that's what he planned to do with me, that's fine. I'll go wherever he tell me to do. At least I know that's where I come from. There's folks that love me. Ain't not gonna deny it. Hey, anyway, let's pray for this leadership. The church, I told you, it's two worlds. There's the kingdom of heaven and the kingdom of hell. You got the real church and you got the perverted church. And the Lord is revealing all of it. There are some leaders that have been just plagiarizing the Bible because they're trying to pretend they're part of the kingdom. The Lord is going to snatch the covers off of them, just like he's snatching off this stuff in the leadership. Everybody pointing their fingers at the former president. You about to find out stuff on the current president and all this stuff. And that people are so hateful. Still, they want the man dead. They ought to tell people, spiritual people, something. Why that particular president, out of all the presidents, why y'all attacking that one like that? Why y'all hate him that much? Pray for him. I pray for this one. Pray for them. Get out of that stuff. There's no Christian person supposed to be caught up in that mess like that. Yes, you're in the government. You're in a world that has a governmental system, but your true governmental system is in heaven. Have him to turn the king's hearts the way he wants to. Stop all this mess. Because if it gets in your heart, you're going to start speaking that stuff and acting like it, becoming hateful, and miss him when he get here. Don't allow anything to get you so weighed down. Stop making people your God. You're supposed to love people, yes. Then you get so caught up until when a person makes a mistake because they are human, they might not even recognize you, didn't call your name out, and you're so sensitive, you get upset. You do what you want to, you kick them to the curb because they don't do what you want. Then you already know you cannot keep your hope on folks because they would turn their back on you. Because if they for you, they for you. What the Lord told the disciples. These people wasn't hanging around the Lord, but they heard him, they caught on to the word, and they loved him. And they were sharing the word. And the disciples were wanting to be theirs. You want us to shut them up? He said, no. Whoever is not against you is for you. I don't have to be in your face. Let's pray. Let's pray for these leaders. Let's pray for these folks. Because all of us are leaders. You don't understand that? When God made you, he created you for his pleasure. You leading somebody. You don't even know it. Somebody's watching you. Somebody's hearing what's coming out of your mouth. Don't get so caught up on the numbers, folks, Christian folks. Yes, the Lord getting you all, some of you, to go on the social media and things. Don't be so caught up on the numbers and clicks and likes. Because just because you have a click and like don't mean their heart is with you. They might just think you entertainment. Because those who really want to hear what you got to say, they're going to come and find it. And even if it's just one person, that hears the gospel and comes to the Lord. That's what you want. Remember, it's God's people. He don't want anybody to go to hell. He don't get pleasure out of people dying and not knowing him. And we shouldn't get pleasure out of people hating folks. Regardless of what they choose to do with their life, you still love them. They still your family. You don't have to deal with their stuff. But don't keep on trying to hate. That's crazy. How you going to hate and love at the same time? Don't make sense. But anyway, let's continue to pray for these people. Pray for each other and ourselves. And let God use us for his glory. For only he should be getting the glory out of us anyway. We can't get the glory out of ourselves. We're not supposed to. I love you all so much. I'm sorry I didn't get to see your all names. Maybe I get to see it after a while when I go back and see if you say hello or anything. But I thank you all for joining me every time that you get a chance. And when you don't, you go back and look at the replays like I have to do other people's. I know when they come on, but I can't always go on. And I just thank you so much. Love you with all of my heart. That will never change. I'm going to tell you the same thing over and over again. And pray you don't get tired, because I'm not going to stop telling you. No matter how much I love you, remember this. God loved you first. And he sure enough loves you best. God bless you. And good night.